Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks. Today's guest is Amanda Shaw, a singer, songwriter, and teacher with over 15 years of experience in the music industry. How you doing, Amanda?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks, Daniel, for having me on.
No worries. It's been an absolute pleasure so far. Obviously we're only just getting started, but it'd be good for the audience to know, what would you actually do in the music industry at the moment? So people that have never heard of you before, how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a singer-songwriter, and I have several albums out online. And at the moment, I'm working on an album release, which has got about 11 tracks on it. And I'm working with a producer called Gavin Miller, who's worked with sort of done remixes for Moloko and David Gray, amongst others. So, very talented producer as well. And I also have management as well that's sort of pushing this album forward as well. So yeah, it's a really exciting album. It's sort of the culmination of several years worth of work. So and various writers that including Emma Holland as well, who's absolutely a fantastic writer. And so we have some really great writers on this. We also have a few writers as well, which I work with sort of in America. So a couple of sort of Nashville-based writers and things as well. So really, it's it's the culmination of a lot of work over the last couple of years, and yeah, we're really excited about it. And sort of getting it out there and sort of seeing what the audience, kind of thinks of it, and the story behind it as well. So it's very meaningful to me as well, this album. So yeah, it's quite exciting to sort of be on this journey, really. So yeah, so we're sort of exploring some new sounds as well in this album. So we're going for sort of classic Motown sounds, and it's quite a sort of eclectic mix, really, of new songs. So it's a real sort of mixture. And you've got sort of elements of things like your piano sounds in there. You've got sort of some nice acoustic sounds in there. So it's a real sort of mixture, as I say. You've got sort of almost electro folk sounds in there, as well as sort of slightly more sort of stripped back folky sounds as well. The song we've been working on recently is called "Do You Remember," which is very much a Motown song. So yeah, so we're just working on that at the moment as well, which is really cool because it's got a ridiculous number of vocal parts. So I think Gavin's had quite a challenge trying to bring all those vocal parts together. but but it's been great fun, and we think that a lot of people will relate to this album as well. So yeah, it's exciting. We've got a showcase gig coming up in March as well, so which is sort of to be confirmed in terms of the date, but I can obviously let you know when that's going ahead as well. So, and also I'm just collating my back catalogue at the moment for sort of online platforms and things. So we're just trying to kind of bring that about at the moment as well. I've got probably about 100 songs or more. So yeah, so we're sort of trying to see what we can do with those, and hopefully see if we can get them some sort of sync deals and things like that as well. So yeah, so we've got a band as well. So we're sort of rehearsing every week with the band as well. So we've sort of bass, drums, two guitarists and a piano player as well, and also some backing vocals as well. So we've got a nice sort of lineup as well for upcoming gigs, and we hope to sort of do some gigs around sort of this area, so sort of Hastings area, and then sort of Brighton and London as well. So yeah, that's sort of the plan for 2022. So yeah, hopefully it should be a really exciting year.
You mentioned there's quite a lot of meaning behind the album. Do you want to talk about exactly what that is in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, I mean, these songs, I mean, so they sort of have sort of personal meaning to me. and it's really about a relationship. It's a journey of sort of a relationship, and it's sort of the many different facets of of a relationship, and sort of, you know, what you sort of go through in terms of, you know, the ups and downs within a relationship. So, you know, we think that a lot of people will relate to that. You know, some of these songs were not written by me, and some were. So, you know, they're songs that have meaning to a lot of people, that have written, you know, sort of on the album as well. So, so we've got a few, as I say, a few writers on the album. So it's sort of a few people's takes on relationships, if you like, which is quite interesting. I always think sort of having that, sort of different perspectives really on it can actually be quite sort of effective and useful, and also, you know, sort of bring about a slightly different sound as well. So so yeah, yeah. Do feel free to ask me any, any other questions that you think.
I want to talk about your journey actually. So let's take it back, you know, like when did you first get into music? Was there a first piece of music that you heard? And then how did that kind of develop from there in terms of learning an instrument and picking up skills?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, for me, sort of my first musical experiences really were sort of hearing a lot of sort of folky tracks. I mean, you know, as people always say, it's our parents' record collection that seems to inspire us the most. So, you know, I mean, my parents used to play a lot of sort of folky Celtic type songs and things. So I'm very much inspired by that. You know, Clanad, you know, and you know, that sort of similar sound. And I just really enjoy that style of music, you know, and things like R&B as well. I was always into R&B, and of course I'm into all the sort of the divas. I love listening to sort of Celine Dion, Leona Lewis, you know, Whitney, you know. I was always into that as well, you know, because I just think for them to get a voice like that, and it's just so accomplished. It's just, it takes so much work, I think, to get to that point. So I kind of have a lot of admiration for them. You know, people like Aretha Franklin, I just have so much admiration for their journeys in music as well. And sort of studied that whilst I was doing my degree in music as well, because I studied at Brighton Institute of Modern Music, did a degree there. So, and again, you know, a lot of my studies were around people like Kate Bush as well. And so for me, Kate Bush is, I just think she's an amazing kind of inspiration really in the music industry. You know, for someone, I think now I got this right, but I think she's only ever done 2 performances. And that for me that's incredible. You know, when you think of the sort of career that she's had, and you know what an incredible writer she is, you know, she's someone that really inspires me, you know. But wherever I've been, you know, I've been into so I mean, like going to Ireland, because I used to live in Ireland for a while, and you know, and I'd go to the pubs in Ireland as well, and I'd listen to the Irish music, and I just, again, it just, for me, it's very alive, that music, you know. It's got a real kind of a heart and soul to it, and that's really the kind of music that I want to try and create. I want to try and create something that is real, really. So, you know, and just meaningful really to people, hopefully. So yeah, I mean, you know, other influences, people like sort of Trisha Yearwood as well. I love sort of a bit of country music, so Faith Hill, you know, again, you know, absolutely fantastic artists, and the songs that are written for them are just, you know, so well written, so well thought out, you know. You know, I just admire the songwriters that really do these, you know, put these songs together, because it takes a lot of work, and a lot of thought, I suppose, to bring them about, you know.
So when did you first sort of pick up a musical instrument from there? And what did you learn first? Like how did that kind of progress?
Um, I actually, the first instrument I think that I picked up, was actually the piano. And I just remember, funny enough, I remember going over to my aunt's, and she had this incredible piano. It was lovely, you know, and I just thought, I've got to sit at it, I've got to write some music. I was always kind of inspired to do that. So sort of, you know, I'd sit there and I'd just play away for hours, you know. I'm probably thinking, my goodness, you know, she's so rude. She's come over and she's just playing the piano. But yeah, I mean, I always kind of was inspired to do that. And also my next instrument was the flute. So I got into playing the flute when I was probably about, I would say about 12 or 13, something like that. So, you know, in secondary, as it were. And I just felt it was the instrument for me in many respects, the flute. There's some instruments that I'd sort of pick up and I'd think, oh, I'm not so sure about this. It doesn't sort of align with me. But yeah, but I love the flute. And I mean, nowadays I try and sort of bring it into performances. We have been sort of bringing it into a couple of rehearsals as well recently. So doing a couple of jam sessions, you know, using the flute as well, and doing some improv with that as well. So it's great. I love a bit of blues flute. It's yeah, I mean, you know, I've picked up other instruments as well, because I used to do sort of community music projects as well, sort of helped to run those, and you know, picked up the drums, bit of guitar, bit of bass, you know. So I can't claim to be absolutely fantastic at at those, but I have I have an understanding of them, and I really love playing the drums. There's something about the drums. So maybe that's something for future I'll get into. You never know.
Yeah, that's my instrument of choice, so can relate to that one. So I know you obviously you teach music as well. Like, what made you choose to go into teaching, and what has been your experience doing that to date?
I love teaching. Yeah, I mean, it's for me, I think it's really, we've got to inspire the next generation as much as we can, really. And you know, to me, it's about kind of just teaching them the skills that they need, really, to sort of take music forward. And you know, there's a lot of people that I teach that are really into, you know, popular music as well as kind of classical music as well. But it's really nice to see their ideas, you know, in songwriting and things like that as well. You know, they're really taking these ideas and just sort of, you know, writing their own material and things. So, you know, it's sparking creativity in them. And I think, you know, to inspire the next generation to, you know, to sort of to see what musical ideas they come up with, and kind of what themes are coming up. It's actually quite interesting. So yeah, I mean, I teach piano and singing, so you know, sort of, and a little bit of music production as well. So kind of mix it up a bit. So yes, it's, I mean, it is, yeah, I enjoy it. It's good. Teaching is a very rewarding thing to do as well. You know, and again, you know, if we can bring the next generation up and kind of, you know, get them inspired by music, then I can't wait to hear, you know, what comes about as a result of that.
There's been a lot of change in the music industry, you know, over the last 20 years. Describe maybe your experience with that, I guess, like the positives and negatives of, you know, how the music industry used to be versus how it is today.
Oh, good question. I mean, I think that yes, it's changed enormously. I mean, when you think about you know, kind of, you know, CDs and things being, you know, the primary thing being sold, really, it used to, they used to be, you know, very costly, really, to buy albums and things like that, you know, compared to what it is now. So, you know, I think it's a shame that people don't see the value in albums anymore as much, I think. But it is just a changing market. I mean, you know, it has become a very digital world, hasn't it? And, you know, it's, I think, you know, music is very accessible now, which is fantastic. And, you know, it's more a case of, you know, well, I suppose my other thought about it is that it's, you know, sort of when you go to a website and of course you're trying to download tracks and stuff, and you think to yourself, right, okay, I want this track and this track, but I don't want the whole album's worth. So for an artist, how does that change things? I mean, you know, that's why I feel that having a story behind an album is actually quite an important thing. You know, so sort of concept albums can be quite, you know, an interesting thing. And, you know, who knows, you know, it could be a bit of a sort of a J.K. Rowling situation where, you know, people suddenly get back into albums again because someone sells this incredible album, hard copy of an album that's just like everyone wants it, you know. So, you know, I thought it was amazing the way she got everyone into reading into reading books, you know, sort of just as a result of writing Harry Potter. I mean, yeah. So yeah, who knows? But it's I don't know. It's a changing world. It is a very changing world at the moment, and you know, we just have to you know keep on keeping on with it, you know, ultimately, because you know, no one's ever going to be without music. You know, it's always going to be yeah, it's always going to be an evolving industry. Let's put it that way, and it's going to change, isn't it, over time? You know, the way that people kind of access music and things. So, yeah.
Maybe like throughout your career, what have been perhaps like the biggest challenges and hurdles that you faced, you know, working in the music industry?
Yeah. Well, there's been various things. You know, now you sort of talk about it. I mean, things like pay to play, for example. I remember when I first started out and I was thinking, oh my goodness, you know, having to pay money in order to play at a gig. And I thought, no way, I'm not doing this. But, you know, and it was, you know, in order to sort of support an act or whatever, they were saying, oh, you know, you have to sell a certain number of tickets, or, and for a kind of an emerging artist, I think that's really difficult, actually. You know, so for, again, you know, for any artist that I'm working with as well, you know, teaching and things, you know, it is about making them aware that, you know, they don't have to do that, don't have to pay to play, you know, and that, you know, getting this exposure is more about, you know, sort of your local gigs. It's about, you know, it's really about building an audience, isn't it? So yeah, that's definitely been a challenge, you know, sort of with some of that, because it, you know, sometimes to I don't know, to get the right gigs and get paid for them as well, because of course, you know, a lot of people will pay for, this is what I've found anyway, a lot of people will pay for kind of cover gigs and things. So, you know, I think probably doing a cover gig and throwing in some of your own material, you know, playing some of these covers in your own way, you know, your own style, I think that's really important, you know, so because then you are sort of bringing across the essence of what it is that you're actually trying to put out there, really. But yes, it's and also trying to sort of I suppose get the industry interested in what you're doing. Sometimes it can be challenging, because, you know, you want to make sure that it's the right sort of style, you know, exactly what they're kind of looking for. You don't always know exactly what they're looking for, so, you know, that can sometimes be a limitation. But, you know, I think the way around that limitation is just to continue doing what you're doing, you know, and just make sure that you know, make sure you're putting music out there that you're passionate about, really. That to me is the most important thing. So yeah.
So again, down the same sort of path, you know, what have kind of been like the biggest lessons that you've learned as well?
The biggest lessons. Yeah, I mean, again, I think just trying to think, really. I mean, for me, probably the biggest lessons were doing, you know, that were just making sure that you're fully prepared, I suppose, for sort of say for your gigs and things like that as well. So you sort of got to make sure that you're absolutely, you know, I mean, you know, something that really helped me was putting together what's called a CPA, which is a critical path analysis, and, you know, almost using project management type strategies, really, because I think sometimes as an artist we can be very scattered in our thinking, you know, sometimes. So it's almost like I do a bit of this, and I do a bit of, you know, putting my songs to the publishers. I do a bit of, you know, kind of rehearsing, and then, you know, there's various different things that we need to do. But we have to sort of balance those out, and we have to make sure that we kind of, you know where the end goal is, and kind of strategize it a bit. So that has been really helpful to me. But yes, certainly at times that has been challenging, and, you know, sort of keeping your general income going, and making sure that you're doing that, and that you're sort of following a process with that as well. So yes, so I think to have those challenges, but then to sort of find a way around them is super important.
And then I guess, you know, for musicians coming up or artists, what advice would you give them? And do you think it's realistic to put all your eggs in one basket, essentially, and just say, like, I'm going to be a musician or an artist?
I don't believe in necessarily always putting your eggs in one basket. I would say probably, I mean, for me personally, running two careers alongside each other has actually been really helpful to me. When I say careers, you know, lines of work, let's say. You know, because I actually used to do a lot of personal training and things as well. So, you know, I sort of mixed those two careers up, so that I can kind of make sure that I maintain an income. But, and also with my teaching as well, as I was sort of getting into the teaching, I was sort of doing the personal training as well. So I sort of was able to do a number of things. I think having a few strings to your bow is really important, actually. You know, you don't want to just kind of be like, I'm just a musician and that's it, necessarily, because I think it can hinder you as an artist as well, because if you've got all that pressure on you just to sort of make your income from that one thing, you know, it makes you feel pressured to sort of really, you know, put that thing together, and then you might not take your time over a project. You might not give it time to actually evolve properly. So I think it's really important to, you know, have that support behind you in order to, and also the support of course, the people in your life as well is important. So, you know, as long as you've got that, and you've got, you know, another income, then you're able to explore these ideas and really bring them to, you know, to fruition in the way that you can, you know. So yeah.
I think this will be an interesting one to discuss with you. So, how important do you think it is to learn like formal music training? Essentially, you know, like do your grades, learn music theory, especially if you're just producing in your bedroom and perhaps you're just trying to make your own music and create stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, when I first started out, I didn't really have that formal training, you know, at the very beginnings. And I was someone who just played by ear, you know. So it came naturally to me. But I realized that with that formal training as well, on top of that, that it, you know, it could be really, really good, you know, because I was sort of starting to really form those ideas. So for example, you know, with chords, sort of adding in, say, like your sevenths, your ninths, you know, and kind of understanding a little bit of how jazz theory could kind of, you know, come into it. And, you know, understanding a little bit more about songwriting and, you know, rhythmic structures and things like that, you know. Just bringing all of these things together, I think is really important, actually. I think your music theory is definitely an important thing to understand. Popular music theory for people who want to do pop music, really. And then obviously, you know, classical theory more for people that want to go down the classical route. It's because there is a difference in the understanding of those two. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, in my personal opinion, there's a difference in how people understand popular music theory versus classical theory. So yeah, so I think, yeah, I think that sort of having that understanding and awareness helps you to become a better songwriter, and you know, a better artist, I suppose, in some respects. Yeah, you know, and you can get the best out of what it is that you do.
Perfect. No, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously we've just kind of hopefully about to finish this pandemic, right? Like finally getting out of it. What sort of challenges have you faced within your sort of day to day around the pandemic, and how have you overcome and adapted to it?
Oh, yes. I mean, do you know what? The funny thing is, when the pandemic started, that's when we started recording this album. So the interesting thing is that it actually gave us more time to be able to do, you know, the creative things, you know, like kind of writing and recording and all that. So I think it's been actually, in some respect, in that respect, certainly, it's been a blessing. Um, you know, looking at the positives of it. So yeah, but I mean, going forward, I don't know. I mean, I can't be sure about how it's going to be going forward from the pandemic. But my hope is that, you know, there'll be gigs available, you know, for people, for musicians and stuff, you know, and obviously keep writing. That's what I would say to anybody that's in the music industry right now. It's like, keep writing, you know, keep recording, and just get your ideas out there as much as you can, because even if they're not kind of getting out there necessarily at a venue, or, you know, being, you know, played live, at least you've got them out there. At least you've you know, it's been heard, because I think that's just so important, because ultimately, to me, it's about growing music as well as we're not, I feel like, you know, songwriters aren't necessarily just in the game of just putting a song out there. You know, if you look at the wider perspective, you know, music is about, you know, it's a wider development of kind of, you know, and social, do you know what I mean? There's actually quite a lot to it in that respect. We're building more behind it, you know. Probably not kind of voicing this the right way, but yes, it's you know, we're evolving ideas, you know, we're evolving thoughts, where, you know, that is what a musician's kind of you know, goal would be, is to sort of add to that wider perspective, if that makes sense. So it's all very valuable, is what I'm saying. You know, it's all very valuable, you know, and, you know, because I think a lot of people sort of think, oh, you know, if I'm not making money from this, is it valuable? And it really is valuable. You know, it's valuable to a writer on a personal level, but it's also valuable to the people that relate to it. And, you know, if it has sort of resonated with one person even, then, you know, then I think that's a worthy thing, isn't it? Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely, I completely agree. So Amanda, like we're nearly out of time now. It's already flown by. But is there anything else you'd sort of like to leave the audience with as we close out today?
I just want to say, if you do want to find my music, I'm just going to do a shameless plug here. So www.reverbnation.com/Amanda Shaw Music. And I'm also on Facebook, www.facebook.com, obviously. And it's AMIISHAW music. So that's so yeah. Do you know, you sort of say things back and you think, did I say that right? So yeah, and also I'm on YouTube as well, if you want to look me up on that as well. So and you know, if you do want any more information about the album, you know, obviously the online platforms are going to have all that information, and I'll be in touch with you, Daniel, as well, about all that as well.
Superb. And you know, once it is out, you know, we'll put the link in the description and everything like that. So yeah, thanks for chatting today, Amanda. It's been great.
Thank you for having me. It's been really nice. Thank you.
No problem at all. And then I'll leave it with another question, to be fair. You know, what's the plan from here now the album's all done?
So the album release is going to be in February. And we just hope to get out there and gig this album. That's the plan. So this year is going to be a year of gigs. It's going to be, you know, a year of hopefully doing some more interviews and things, and just sort of, you know, just getting this album out there basically, and PR'd, as it were.
Great stuff. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks
Cheers
so
for watching,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Nice one. Take care. See you next time.
Bye.